bit concerning to me that there seems to be folks who know more about this task force design and presentation that was happening than a board member. So to me, this demonstrates more of a political move than actually trying to help out our schools. That is an opt-in class that families do not have to have their students participate in. Chris has shared that it was a mistake. So a staff mistake is a personnel issue, which is actually not a function of the board. So I know it said we don't want to place blame, but if we don't, I don't know what we're trying to find out then. I will not be part of a political agenda to scrutinize teachers, assignments, health and sex, race, SEL, our LGBTQ students, or any other important initiative. So I wanted to start by thanking you, Chris. Your superintendent report was short, and I'm going to say it's because you're too humble and too kind, and that you actually need to brag more. There's so many great things that are happening in our district and areas that we need to better understand and support. Honestly, I wish I could see a PowerPoint of that instead. But in all seriousness, this community is full of staff, students, and families that care. I saw firsthand how this community can rally together. Coaches, counselors, school nurses, teachers, bus drivers, admin, and alumni students who come back to give back. At the end of the day, we must be doing so many things right. We have a community that cares, and now we just need to heal and come together. I think it was mentioned that it's Board of Ed Appreciation Month. I'm going to start by thanking Tina for your leadership, your willingness to listen, your commitment to students, families, and staff, and also thank all the board members here and virtually with us for your commitment to our town. There's lots happening around summer programming. So I know Town and Rec has their tons of fun summer flyer out, and ERFC camp information is out. I am hoping at maybe the next Board of Ed meeting we can hear more about Enfield Public Schools plans for summer programming. I was hoping to see a collaborative approach to summer programming with our partners to be able to offer more flexible, full-time, and low-cost or free options for families. I'm still hoping that we could post all of this information in one common place for families to navigate, as it's challenging to know what are all the options and who to go for what, and how to make a full day out of the different programming that's available. I'd also like to hear more about our strategic planning process moving forward. How can we include students, staff, and families' input for next steps in our ARP funding and other state initiatives? Thank you, Mini Mayor, and I can't wait for the 31st. I also want to touch on some school facilities. So I know that right now the town has a survey out about the plan of conservation and development. I encourage everybody to please complete that. And if something in that survey doesn't adequately kind of capture what you're hoping to see, there is blank areas. I encourage you to write in your concerns or thoughts. I know personally I am very concerned about some of our school facilities, parking lots, bus safety, sidewalks, drop-off lines spilling into major roads. We actually had a fire alarm situation at Enfield Street, and as I was leaving, there was a police officer there helping with traffic because there was an emergency. And I actually was like, gosh, I wish he was here every day because it is a nightmare getting in and out of that parking lot. And I said that to him as I left. I'm like, oh, you should come back tomorrow. I did reach out to leadership, and thank you, Ellen, for your response. I'm excited to hear more about how we can have joint discussions with town council around priorities. Again, and I encourage folks to complete that survey for our community. Jerry mentioned the transition to kindergarten event. It was funny, I was sharing Kite's post about that and completely forgot that that is me. I have a child who's going to be transitioning to kindergarten. I'm like, oh God, I should actually probably register for this. My hope is that there is some type of in-person possibility for families. I will speak personally as a moment that my My son's almost towards the end of first grade, and I've been inside of his school 2 times. And it is really challenging, especially since both of those events were at the beginning of the school year and only allowed one parent. My husband has never been inside my children's school. And that is feeling very strange. And actually, in some weird ways, I feel like I was more connected to school during COVID and hybrid learning and virtual learning than I am now. So I'm hoping that, with spring and summer and seeing that events are happening at schools, that there is some type of transition to kindergarten in-person event for families so we can get in our schools. I, too, attended the Invention Convention, as Mr. Ungheier mentioned. Thank you to the staff, students, and families. Tessa really enjoyed JFK's auditorium. I think we could have sat in there. I was loving the inventions, but she was really loving that stage. I want to remind parents to please read the principal newsletters that you get. They typically go out on Fridays, although not everybody's on a Friday schedule, so I don't want to speak broadly. But there are important updates and information in those newsletters. I also want to thank, I think it's Carrie, that's at least who Chris told me it was. There was a nice addition in the elementary school version of the newsletters with like one-pagers on iReady and how to use iPads at home. If any parent is out there like me, I had no idea that I could be using my children's iPads at home. I just kept them in their backpacks or charged them at night for them to go back. And it was really refreshing to say, hey, we can log in and do this at home. So I encourage families to check that out. I know Enfield Street School PTO is in the planning phases of a walkathon. I encourage you to reach out to their PTO to participate and help out with that. We're also trying to raise funds through a very easy way through scanning your receipts with Box Top. Please scan your receipts and give us some Box Top dollars. And the readathon is going on. So there was a paint night that happened that I'm really sad that I missed out on. And my daughter's amazing teacher is going to be at Hartford Public Library on the 30th and can't wait to participate in that really blended event in Hartford and checking out their library. It's the Week of the Young Child, April 4th through the 9th. And the webinar, the Zoom with Peg Oliveria, Cracking the Code to the Why of Early Childhood, will be provided. There's a nice little scanning code, and you can actually have access to that training if you were not able to tune in. ERFC still has openings in their before and after school programs, both at the elementary and middle school level. They have registration for April vacation break care, spring programmings from K to 5th grade of all different types of things, crafts and STEAM and adventures. Their summer camp registration is also open, K through 8th grade, from June 27th through August 26th. And you can get more information at erfcinc.org. I do want to address Mr. Ungheier's task force, just because I think I might have been the board member he was referencing as far as being open to having a parent advisory committee of some sort. And I do want to say I'm glad you mentioned that. I actually did reach out to you after you had mentioned this task force on the 12th, and I was hoping to be able to have some conversation with you. However, I didn't get a response. So it's a bit concerning to me that there seems to be folks who know more about this task force design and presentation that was happening than a board member sitting who actually reached out wanting to know more. So to me, this demonstrates more of a political move than actually trying to help out our schools. So I do have a couple questions. How have we responded to mistakes or issues that have happened in the past? Is this a typical response? We have had many families, staff, and residents come here and raise concerns, yet we haven't formed a task force to address any of those. So how do we make decisions about committees and task force that we form? I also need to better understand the purpose. I'm really unsure what you're trying to find out. I believe we know what happened and that it hasn't been a secret. We know that the root cause of the assignment is actually a health sex ed assignment that's linked to the 8th grade health standards and framework, actually the ones that Ms. Cushman just referenced. So we know that it's about health education. We know that that is an opt-in class that families do not have to have their students participate in. Chris has shared that it was a mistake. So a staff mistake is a personnel issue, which is actually not a function of the board and is actually in conflict of our duties. So I know it said we don't want to place blame, but if we don't, I don't know what we're trying to find out then. I totally understand wanting to better understand the process of curriculum writing, approval, implementations of lessons, and maybe this is something that we could review in a committee or as a Board of Ed presentation or in a more permanent advisory council, but I don't believe we should be doing this just on the pizza assignment. I want to make it clear, and I'm not going to say this again if this does become an agenda item later on, I will not be part of a political agenda to scrutinize teachers, assignments, health and sex, race, SEL, our LGBTQ students, or any other important initiative. I do support a more permanent stakeholder advisory council with the defined purpose of connecting learning to home and home to learning. This could be a great way to foster partnership opportunities, support transparency and awareness, voice and decision-making, and our work on educational equity. Enfield Public Schools students, staff, and families should be part of setting our goals for our districts and action planning for priority items. So I will not reiterate those pieces again if this does come to discussion again. And I think it's important to be very clear in how we support staff and how we address concerns of families. I totally understand what it's like to be a parent sitting at that mic. I often was met with the same set of silence, but I also don't want anybody to think that there isn't work that happens not sitting up here on a Tuesday night. We don't get paid, we volunteer our time, and we put a lot of time and effort into supporting and helping our school. At least I know I do, and the folks that I chat with do. And if we could all just be supportive and find the strengths and what we can do to help out our schools and our staff and our families, I think we'd actually make better gains.
Thank you, Ms. Pickett.